We're pleased to welcome three representatives from the Obama administration, Secretary LaHood, Secretary Chu, and Administrator Jackson. Your prepared statements will be in the record in full, and we would like to recognize each of you to make an opening statement, and we will have a clock that will indicate 5 minutes. When you see the red light on, we would like you to recognize your time is up and to summarize. So we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers by members of the committee. Administrator Jackson, we'd like to start with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Waxman. Chairman Waxman, Chairman Emeritus Dingell, Ranking Minority Member Barton, Congressman Markey, Congressman Upton, and members of the committee. Thank you for inviting me to testify about the draft American Clean Energy and Security Act, and happy Earth Day to each and every one of you. Let me begin by commending this committee for embarking on the serious, difficult, and essential work of crafting comprehensive, detailed energy legislation and moving it through an open and careful process in which representatives hold hearings, make amendments, and cast votes. When President Obama was inaugurated 92 days ago, the United States found itself in the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. So the President worked with Congress to pass the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. That law is now creating good jobs for Americans. Thanks to the Act, EPA is putting Americans to work overhauling clean water systems, restoring and redeveloping polluted properties, installing clean air equipment on diesel engines, and cleaning up leaking underground fuel tanks. The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act also injected an essential shot of adrenaline into the American energy sector. That immediate relief is essential to economic recovery. But President Obama has also leveled with the American people. Lasting economic recovery will come only when the federal government looks beyond the quick fix and invests in building the advanced energy industries that will help restore America's economic health over the long term. So President Obama has called on Congress to pass forward-looking energy legislation. That legislation should create here in America millions of the clean energy jobs that cannot be shipped overseas. It should catapult American innovators past the foreign competitors who, due to aggressive investments by their governments, now enjoy a head start in the advanced energy technologies that represent the new Internet revolution, the new biotech wave. The legislation should reduce our dependence on oil and strengthen America's energy security, and it should start in a real and tangible way to tackle greenhouse gas pollution, which threatens to leave to our children and grandchildren a diminished, less prosperous, less secure world. 3 weeks ago, Chairman Waxman and Markey released draft legislation that strives to accomplish the goals I just listed. The American Clean Energy and Security Act would introduce a clean energy requirement for American electric utilities and new energy efficiency programs for American buildings. Those initiatives aim to create good American jobs that cannot be shipped overseas. The legislation would launch programs to promote electric vehicles and deploy technologies for capturing, pipelining, and geologically storing carbon dioxide produced at coal-fueled power plants. Those incentives aim to help American companies make up for lost time in the advanced energy industries that will be to the 2010s what Internet software was to the 1990s. The legislation would institute new low-carbon requirements for vehicles and fuels, as well as programs to reduce vehicle miles traveled. Those proposals aim to increase America's energy security and cut back on the hundreds of billions of dollars that America throws away every year on oil. And the legislation would put in place a declining cap on greenhouse gas pollution. That market-based system aims to protect our children and grandchildren from severe environmental and economic harm and from great threats to our national security, while further invigorating advanced American energy industries. The American Clean Energy and Security Act draws on the thoughtful legislation that Chairman Emeritus Dingell and Congressman Boucher drafted last October, and it tracks many of the recommendations put forward by the U.S. Climate Action Partnership, a coalition that includes American manufacturers such as Alcoa, John Deere, Caterpillar, Dow, Ford, General Motors, and General Electric. Now, the No We Can't crowd will spin out doomsday scenarios about runaway cost. I do not claim that we can get something for nothing. But EPA's preliminary economic modeling indicates that the investments Americans would make to implement the cap and trade program in the American Clean Energy and Security Act would be very modest compared to the benefits that science and plain common sense tell us a comprehensive energy and climate policy will deliver. I ask the members of this committee to recall the acid rain trading program, drafted by this committee as amendments to the Clean Air Act and signed by a Republican president in 1990. Beltway corporate lobbyists insisted that the law would cause, and I quote, death for businesses across the country. But as the members of this committee who worked hard on that legislation know well, it ended up delivering annual health and welfare benefits of over $120 billion at an annual cost of only $3 billion. Our economy grew, and acid rain was cut by more than 50%. The Clean Air Act amendments dealt with controversial issues, not just acid rain, but smog, hazardous air pollutants, and the threats to the ozone layer. But once Chairman Dingell and Chairman Waxman joined forces with other members of this committee to find consensus, the committee reported the amendments favorably to the full House by a vote of 42-1. I believe this committee can make history again this year, and the draft American Clean Energy and Security Act is a great start. It reflects the President's priorities of reducing our dependence on oil, creating millions of new jobs by leveraging America's tremendous capacity for innovation, and significantly reducing greenhouse gas pollution. This administration wants to see this effort move forward, and I pledge to work with this committee over the weeks ahead to help you find consensus. Thank you. I look forward to answering the members' questions.
Thank you very much, Administrator Jackson. Secretary Chu, I'd like to hear from you.
Hello. Chairman Waxman and Markey, Chairman Emeritus Dingell, Ranking Members Barton and Upton, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today to discuss the American Clean Energy and Security Act. For decades, our energy strategy has been little or no strategy at all. For our transportation needs, we have become increasingly addicted to oil at escalating costs to our economy, our environment, our security. For our electricity needs, we burn immense amounts of coal, which is cheap and abundant, but a major contributor to global warming. We will continue to use coal as a fuel, but we must learn to do it in a cleaner way. On this Earth Day, we must state in no uncertain terms, we have a responsibility to our children and their children to curb carbon emissions from fossil fuels that have begun to change our climate. President Obama recognizes that the energy challenge is a defining challenge of our time, and he is committed to a comprehensive energy plan that creates jobs, reduces our greenhouse gas emissions, and reduces our dependence on oil. The Energy Independence and Security Act and the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act have made a down payment on clean energy future. I'm pleased to report that the Department of Energy is getting the Recovery Act money into your local communities as quickly as possible, while maintaining the highest standards of transparency and accountability. We are already putting Americans to work, making homes and buildings more efficient, which will grow our economy and cut energy bills for families. The Recovery Act also provides financing options that could double the production of renewable energy and expands investments in the development of breakthrough energy technologies. But we need to do more. We need not only to jumpstart our economy today, but to lay the foundation for America's long-term prosperity. In the years ahead, the world will turn increasingly to unconventional sources of petroleum, which could lead to higher prices for consumers. With these rising energy costs and the mounting challenges of our climate, the development of clean, renewable sources of energy will be the growth industry of the 21st century. The key question is, who will lead the world in making energy-efficient vehicles, wind turbines, solar panels, and other products and technologies that will power tomorrow's economy? There are two dangers, either of which could dramatically weaken America's future. The first is that the world will fail to take action on climate change in a time to prevent its worst potential effects. The second is that the United States will fail to seize the opportunity to lead, and the new clean energy jobs will be created overseas rather than in America. We can neither let our planet get too hot nor let our economy grow too cold. We must get off the sidelines of the clean energy race and play to win. To that end, we in the administration appreciate Congress's effort in developing the American Clean Energy and Security Act. While we're still reviewing the details, it is clear that Chairman Waxman's legislation could advance the President's goals of launching a new sector of clean energy jobs, making our economy more competitive and weaning the nation from its dependence on oil. The President looks forward to working with members of Congress in both chambers to pass a bill that would transition the nation to a clean energy economy. The administration believes that a gradual market-based cap on carbon pollution would also be a significant step for restoring America's leadership in the deployment of clean energy technology. Building on the success of the bipartisan acid rain program created in 1990 Clean Air Act, this approach will set a clear long-term emission goals that empower the private sector to find the most innovative ways to reduce carbon pollution. The administration also believes a renewable electricity standard could help create a stable investment environment for America's innovators to do what they do best, create new jobs and entire new industries. We also believe it is important to foster continued development of critical technologies to give the American people advanced clean vehicles, to capture and store carbon to limit emissions and sustain our environment, to accelerate energy efficiency improvements, and to develop a smart grid to improve the efficiency, reliability, and security of our electricity transmission system. I applaud Chairman Waxman and Markey for bringing this bill forward. Now is the time to take comprehensive and sustained action to meet our nation's energy challenge. With the leadership of the President, the actions of this Congress, and the support and participation of the American people, I am confident we will succeed. Thank you, and I'd be glad to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Secretary Chu. Secretary LaHood.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Markey, Mr. Dingell, and Mr. Barton, and friends all, thank you for inviting me to discuss the Department of Transportation's commitment to promote a cleaner, greener America through effective and innovative transportation policy. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss the important environment and energy policies laid out in the American Clean Energy and Security Act. I commend the committee for drafting this important legislation. Since today is Earth Day, this is an excellent time to hold a serious national conversation on the most effective ways to improve energy efficiency, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and mitigate the impact of climate change. As you know, one of the highest priorities of President Obama's administration is to develop a comprehensive energy plan that will not only achieve these goals, but also create millions of good-paying, clean energy jobs and help our communities become more livable in the process. There's no question that the United States must be the leader in the global effort to address climate change, cut pollution, and find more sustainable ways to keep our society mobile. The President has already taken concrete steps in this direction. The administration has proposed new fuel efficiency standards for cars and light trucks that would significantly reduce emissions and save millions of gallons of fuel beginning in model year 2011. And we are coordinating with the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Energy on new fuel economy standards to take us through 2016. Our department is also using new statutory authority to explore new fuel economy standards for medium and heavy-duty trucks. Additionally, the department continues to invest in buses run on alternative fuels, thereby reducing emissions and improving air quality in cities and towns across America. Our commitment has helped to quadruple the number of clean fuel bus fleets across and around the nation since 1998. Through the Recovery Act, we are making $100 million grants in grant funds available to help the transit industry to improve fuel efficiency and reduce emissions for bus, rail cars, and other transit equipment. On the climate change front, over the last several years, we've invested in research and technology efforts that will help us to transition away from fossil fuels, improve vehicle efficiency, and optimize our transportation network to reduce congestion and idling while contributing to higher emission levels. Across the department, we are committed to programs and policies that address our environmental concerns. The FAA, for instance, is working with the private sector on sustainable alternative fuel for aircraft. The Maritime Administration is exploring new technologies in cooperation with EPA and industries to reduce emissions from marine diesel engines. Looking ahead, the Department of Transportation stands ready to meet the President's ambitious goals for making transportation an integral part of our approach to addressing environmental challenges. In the coming months, we will work with stakeholder groups around the country to determine how best to invest $8 billion in new funding for high-speed passenger rail service that will ultimately improve mobility and reduce congestion. And we will work closely with Congress to develop a new surface transportation bill that focuses on reducing greenhouse gas emissions by investing in green transportation choices such as bike paths, pedestrian walkways, building more affordable housing near transit. In closing, the Department of Transportation will continue to be your full partner as we move forward with new legislation to help America address its formidable energy challenges. I look forward to working with you, Mr. Chairman, and the entire committee.
Thank you very much, Secretary LaHood.